The clock strikes midnight. A train makes its way across the snowy landscape, and a masked killer is stalking students during a graduation celebration. Who is behind the mask? Was it the awkward pre-med student who was involved in a prank gone wrong? A magician who has a habit of making people disappear? Or is it just a deranged lunatic? Find out during this episode of Real Beans as we take a ride with Terror Train from 1980, starring Jamie Lee Curtis. Kathryn Horan returns to discuss why this film is an underrated gem and why it is worth seeking out today. And to top off the end of the year, we will be sipping Stumptown's Elf Parade Holiday Roast. Please mind the gap and have your tickets ready as we leave the station. Hey everyone, welcome to Real Beans. Thank you for joining us today. Today we have a very special guest with us. It's the return of Kathryn Horan. Welcome, Kathryn.
Thank you so much for having me back again. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and we have a fun film to discuss to the New Year's. And since 2026 is upon us, I thought it'd be kind of fun to find a horror movie that is around that time of year, and went with Terror Train, starring Jamie Lee Curtis from 1980. And 1980 is quite a fun year, as many of the classic slasher movies came out during that time period. And this was just one of the handful that kind of got lost in the shuffle. And it was fun to go back, revisited it, as it's been probably 20 plus years since I had seen it last, and figured I'd see if it still held up, and thought bringing you on as you're a fan of the horror genre, and we had such a great time talking about Halloween 3. Felt this would be a great opportunity for us.
Definitely. And I think it's kind of the perfect movie. You'd mentioned, the New Year's tie-in with the movie for sure, but it's also just such a cozy movie. The very opening scene, you've got all these kids outside in their sweaters and their scarves with a big bonfire going, and they're on this nice train. It just it makes you want to curl up with a blanket and a nice hot cup of coffee.
Right, and you definitely feel that in the set of this film, since it only takes place primarily in the train cars, going from one spot to the other. This is a New Year's event for all the students that are graduating from pre-med, and they're just there to have a great time, but little do they know, something evil is on. So the plot synopsis of Terror Train, I'll just do a quick bit of this. And so basically, a prank goes very wrong at the beginning, where a young man is pledged, and he's going to go in to make love to Jamie Lee Curtis's character. But he doesn't realize that this has all been a setup. And in the place of Jamie Lee Curtis's character is a cadaver that they have brought from the local mortuary.
Which is pretty gruesome.
Absolutely. This is Kenny. And he goes in. Jamie Lee Curtis is there to provide the voice, calling him in. When Kenny discovers that the cadaver is there in place, he goes crazy and gets torn up inside the bedspread and sheets, and cut to the next 4 years.
2 years later or something.
He's been put away in a sanitarium, and now we are at graduation time with Jamie Lee Curtis and her friends. And they go on this train and a New Year's Eve party. And during that time, as midnight approaches, a masked killer appears and starts bumping everybody off. And during this time, the conductor, played by the wonderful Ben Johnson, is trying to figure out the mystery behind who this person is and trying to keep everyone calm in the process. And then we go along throughout the evening, following Jamie Lee Curtis, who is our protagonist and final girl, as she's called. And we follow her around as she tries to figure this mystery out as well. And of course, it leads up to the final climax of the reveal of the killer. And during this time, we get a whole bunch of fun characters, including a visit from David Copperfield, the magician, who plays a magician character, and he gets to
Typecasting, if you
perform.
will.
What's that? Typecast.
Typecasting.
Absolutely. And we get to have some fun with him and some magic as we continue and
Mhm.
towards the end of the film.
Yeah.
And this is quite an interesting film as well because it takes place primarily inside the train cars. And most of the time you get films in this genre, open spaces, campgrounds,
Mhm.
hotels,
Well, neighborhood.
sorority houses, like
Yeah.
places that are easier to move
You
about.
you can escape from, you can run away, and here you're
Exactly.
definitely trapped. There's nowhere you can go.
Exactly. And so you're on this train, and the only way for you to escape is for the whole train to stop, but that causes issues along the way for everybody. Not to mention, it's also freezing cold
Exactly.
outside,
It's winter outside, it's snowing.
which is another fun horror trope that is put into place, being isolated amongst
Mhm.
snow and not able to really get back quick enough, especially on a train. And this is a old-fashioned locomotive,
Mhm.
which doesn't run as fast as our modern trains do. And so the whole stopping, starting is just a whole nightmare for the conductors trying to get everyone back after it's been discovered that a killer is on the loose.
Mhm. I think they mention in the opening scene, or not the opening scene, but in the very beginning of the movie, that there's no radio on board the train either.
Right.
So it's not like they can call for help and have someone come and, rescue them from the train because there's no
E-
radio. They can't alert anyone else what's going on.
exactly. They just have their own
Yeah.
walkie-talkies
Just
to each
communicate amongst
other,
them.
which comes in handy, but not always, as we find out in the show. But yeah, so what is your initial feelings about this movie before we start really diving into this?
I really like this one. I mean, I'm kind of with you. Well, I discovered this one definitely later on, probably within the last decade or so, maybe 10, 15 years was the first time I saw it. And I've only seen it a handful of times since then, but it's so much fun. It's fun. It's a neat premise. I love the idea of it. Almost makes me think of like an Agatha Christie type story where it's these people that are all stuck on a train together and they get knocked off, one by one. What's kind of cool with this one is because it's an end of year party, everyone's dressed in costumes. And so as the killer knocks somebody off, he steals their costume. So you really don't know who the killer is or where it's going until the very end. I love, again, this is Jamie Lee Curtis kind of at the height of her horror days. I think she'd done so this is her fourth horror film in 2 years.
Yeah,
She had
after the
done. So
success of Halloween,
riding high off that.
she became the it girl for
Yeah,
all of the
definitely.
slasher genre,
And
and
she's great.
each time she appears, she gets more stronger and
Yes.
stronger with each role. And this is, I think, her final appearance in slasher film until she would go on to come back with Halloween H2O.
Mhm.
But in this one, she had said that she liked the character more because it was a stronger and more adult like character
Yes.
compared to Prom Night, where she's a high schooler going to prom,
Mhm.
or The Fog, where she's sort of a drifter who
Yep.
happens upon this community.
So I love
And
seeing
so
that.
she was finally like, I've had enough. I need to
Yeah,
start really
which I
focusing on
get.
my career.
Oh,
And
you
we all
wanna get
know that
typecast.
she continued on to win the Oscar and
Mhm.
even poking fun at herself in the TV series Scream Queens as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
But no, yeah, this came along at the same time as handful of
Mhm.
nonstop
Yeah,
slasher
this was
genre movies
kind of
that
the
came.
height of that kinda just trashy slasher movement anyway, between, Halloween, you had Friday 13th, that I think that came out the same year, 1980. So you've got that's, what was in the zeitgeist, that's what everybody was doing is these, it's cheap to make, all the teenagers love it, they'll go see it in the movie theater. Um,
And that was the main purpose of 20th Century Fox. When they got this material, they were hoping to cash in on the Friday the
Mhm.
13th craze of a low budget film making a lot of money. And this had a budget of about 3.5 million. But unfortunately, with the saturation of all these slasher movies, there's not enough to go around, and they only made
Exactly.
a paltry 8 million compared to what they were hoping for of 40 million. So you can
Yeah.
see that it's very difficult to become a huge
Animal.
success like Friday the 13th when you have so
Exactly.
many
I mean, those things
so
really
many
kind of
buy-ins.
are a fluke. It's you can't plan for that. Those things just kind of happen by accident.
Right. And as we find, as you get people who just jump in on the bandwagon, you have a mixture of utter trash, and then you have a few gems here and there. Terror Train is
I
one of the
think that,
few
yeah,
gems.
it's one of the gems. It's actually really pretty good, and it's not quite as stereotypical as some of the other ones. I mean, you
No.
do have some of those, tropes with the final girl and, people having sex, getting killed off, and, people doing drugs or things like that. Yeah, that's in here, but I feel like this one does have something extra to it, between the unique motive of the killer, the background story with him, the fact that he's not supernatural in any way,
Right.
with Michael Myers, Jason, Freddy, they all have some sort of supernatural-ish component to them. He's
Right.
just a
This is
regular guy.
a prank gone wrong revenge
Exactly.
story.
The
But
story.
as you were mentioning earlier about the fact that this is kind of like an Agatha Christie mystery because of
Mhm.
the train element, but also people being offed one by one. You also have a lot of red herrings being thrown
Yes,
at you because you
definitely.
really don't know up until the very end. Like, is it really the guy or is it somebody else? Is it
They
David Copperfield's
they
magician?
definitely want you to think it's David Copperfield. They definitely
It,
lead that pretty heavily, but,
it,
it's also fun seeing him. I mean, he's so young in this.
right.
It's right when he was kinda starting to take off, and he does some pretty cool magic tricks. It's really neat to see.
Exactly. His whole magic show is
Mhm,
quite because he wasn't an actor and he wanted to
mhm,
break into movies, but this was sort of he could kind of be fine. He had a few lines here and there, but mostly it was the show-stopping magic
mhm.
number in front of the classmates who are enjoying this little adventure with him, and he's got a partner, sort
His
of the
assistant. Mhm.
lady who he doesn't have, but he makes
Mhm.
disappear, and you have also some cheekiness with Ben Johnson's character also trying to do some magic on his own.
I love that scene where he's trying to do the card trick. He's just I love him in this movie. I mean, he's a great actor anyway, but he's just so good in this, and he brings kind of a fatherly feel to it. You really feel like he cares about these kids, even though they're drunk and obnoxious. He still
Yeah,
wants to make sure they're having a good time. And
it could have been easy for them to write him as a sleazy, creepy
definitely, and he
character
doesn't come off that way at all.
because you've got all these young, voluptuous teens running
Mhm.
around, and he could have been extremely creepy or gross. But in
Right.
this case, as you say, he's a very fatherly. He wants this to go right. He doesn't
Yeah,
want
he wants them
to.
to have a good time.
And then he gets put into the position of finding one of the bodies and then
Mhm.
coming back and finding it clean and just somebody who's drunk on the floor.
Right.
And so you've got that whole like, well, where'd the body go? What happened? Because
Mhm.
we as the audience see what happens. And so he has to go through the motions of trying to be like, well, what happened? Am I just imagining this because
Right.
of am I stressed through the day or what have you? And for those who don't know, Ben Johnson is an Academy Award winning actor, which you don't usually find many of those in horror genre, like the slasher genre.
Yeah,
And
not this
but
kind
he
of
won for The Last Picture Show back in the 70s. And so, as we were talking, this is unique in a slasher film because it's been elevated by not only Ben Johnson, but with Jamie Lee Curtis in her top peak. And you have David Copperfield, and then an unknown to me. I didn't really realize she was somebody at the time, but a singer named Vanity. She has a very minor role as one of the students, but she would go on to be
Prince protege.
Prince Protege in the music video era in the 1980s. So for actors who bring out some
Mhm.
gravitas and elevate this from being just your trashy, typical slasher, do something that is fun, and they all none of them phone it in. That's what I love
Mm-mm.
about this too is,
No.
I've seen many actors of Ben Johnson's esteem kinda just phone in a character and not
Just
really have
another paycheck.
not yeah, exactly, whereas Johnson is very much into the character. He's having a good time. You can tell he's enjoying himself while he's there, and even what I've read about him with this film, he said everyone was in, you know, top form, everyone was enjoying themselves, and,
And I think
um
that makes a difference. I mean, you really can tell when everyone's just having a good time, when it's an enjoyable set. I think that definitely comes through in people's performances.
Exactly. And for this being on a train, and being a costume party, this makes it easier for us to keep the villain in secret as he swaps costumes back and forth. And there's some fun, also unique costumes that come into play,
Oh,
like a
for
Groucho
sure.
Marx costume.
Which can I say,
Man,
it doesn't look like Groucho Marx. I always think it
uh,
looks more like Gene Shalit.
yes, I thought so too, because
This is
just
Groucho.
how the frizzy hair is, and Groucho Marx didn't really have frizzy hair like
No,
that. And
no, it looks like
but the actor who's inside the costumes, all they get to do is really just speak with their eyes. And the
Mhm.
moments where you like see him looking at specific people
Yep.
or having connections with them, you don't get any vocals, just the eyes and the
Mhm.
movement. And they're very thrilling and very suspenseful. But yeah, you've got the Groucho Marx costume, you've got the creature from the Black Lagoon costume, and then an old hag
Yep.
or old man mask.
Yeah, yeah, the kind of
Uh,
witchy thing, yeah.
I think those are the three main
Those are the main ones.
ones. And then everyone else who's on board are dressed up as like princesses or Cleopatra or
Mhm.
just not many with masks on.
Correct.
Uh,
Yeah, just kinda wearing fun dresses and costume jewelry and things.
right. And yeah, so that's makes it fun to just be like, well, who's
Mhm.
going to get who, or who's really in the mask. And
Exactly, exactly. That's something else unique about this movie, I think. It just keeps you kinda guessing the whole time because you don't know where the next kill's gonna come from or who's gonna be the next costumed character, all
right.
that stuff.
And so I think that's one reason why, as we're talking about this, it makes Terror Train one of the underrated gems
Mhm.
of the time period, because you've got a lot of the slashers that would come around during this time period, especially the ones that aren't as up to snuff as like Friday the 13th and Halloween, are very mean spirited in the way of how they treat their female
Mhm.
protagonists.
Yep.
And here, because Jamie Lee Curtis does add a lot of gravitas to this, her character is very confident and strong.
Mhm.
And also, the classmates are all pre med students, and you don't
Yeah.
usually see like a specific type of student or classmate in these types of pictures, where they're usually just stupid teenagers who really have no background. Or but here you've got them all like ready to go on to become
Yeah,
doctors, nurses,
exactly.
and
They're
they actually have goals and what they want to do, so there's more
all smart people
backstory.
in theory. Yeah.
Right. Yes, then they do come off, as many do in college
Mm.
and parties. They are very stupid at times, but
Yeah.
also goofy,
Goofy,
funny,
you get the, the conceited one, the
conceited ones. And then you've got the friends who are like trying to get at each other, and
Mhm.
jealousies form between
Right, exactly.
the two boyfriends. And yeah, I think also how the way the film has been handled in terms of the gore and the gratuitous nudity, which is very limited.
Very
And
much so.
it's not, there is gore in it, but it works in its place. It's not
Yeah,
just
it feels appropriate. It's not like you said, it's not gratuitous, and I feel like it's a long time. I mean, you get once the train stuff starts happening, you get the first guy that gets killed off right away, but then it's kind of a long time before someone else dies. And there's and then the other fellow gets killed in the bathroom, and then there's another kind of long stretch. It's not just kill after kill after kill. There's some suspense, and it builds this momentum, and
and
it goes long stretches, and then kind of at the end you get a that's when the body count starts to come. But there's long
right.
periods where you don't get any of that.
And I think it's kind of adds some realism to it,
Right.
because if the killer was bumping off nonstop,
Yeah,
people would
people would
forget.
notice pretty quick.
Yeah, especially in such a small quarters as
Mhm. But I think that
train is.
it also lets you get to know these characters. It really allows for that character development. You get to know these people, you care about them, you get to learn, their wants, their desires, who they're friends with, who they're having conflict with, and that all makes the story much more interesting and engaging.
Exactly. And then having the adults who are present, the
Hmm.
conductors, when they know that something is wrong and they take everyone outside to do some head counting and make sure everyone is not in danger, even with the cold, everyone's just freezing cold. The conductors are like, please, please, calm. We were going to get to the bottom of this. Okay, we've cleared everything out, and
You
uh,
have people actually making smart decisions instead of just
right. And you don't often see that in
doing
a
things like,
slasher
what are they
movie.
doing? Why would you do
And exactly. And you've got two competent people on the train. The conductor is not, Ben Johnson's character is not an idiot. He's not bumbling. He's not drunk. He's actually able to figure things
that?
out. And then Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, plays the final girl who's very competent and
Yeah.
can figure out how to maneuver herself, especially when she's being chased down at the climax with the guy dressed up in the old hag mask. And she ends up in the conductor's room, hiding inside the conductor's cage,
Right.
being taunted, which makes for one thrilling and
Mhm.
suspenseful moment in the film. And of course, Jamie Lee Curtis is a scream queen, so she has to do a lot of blood curdling screams,
Right.
which she does not disappoint in this movie. And so, because of this too, in it creates a lot. The atmosphere is very claustrophobic,
Mhm.
which is another wonderful adage to the horror genre because having that eerie, unnerving sense of I can't move
Mhm.
really benefits this piece.
I agree. Yeah. No, it's just another layer just adds to it. And that's another thing that makes this one stand out, I think, above some of the others of its time.
Exactly. What would be your favorite scenes in the movie?
Oh gosh, my favorite scenes. Let me think. Well, I mean, it's weird to say I love it, but I like the opening kind of prank scene where that sets everything up. I mean, it is kind of grotesque and you feel really bad for poor Kenny, but it gives some context. It really kind of sets things in motion and gives a reason for why all of this is happening. I think that's kind of fun because not every other horror movie has something quite like that. Even like with Halloween, you do get that opening scene where you see Michael kill his sister, but nothing's explained. You know, you don't know why he's doing these things. This at least kind of gives context for what's going to happen.
Right.
Um, Other scenes, I mean, I really love, I think the magic scenes are a lot of fun. David Copperfield's great. And then kind of his flirting with Jamie Lee Curtis. Those are always kind of fun where he's doing the thing with the rose and hands that to her.
Right.
Uh, and I love the Ben Johnson scene with the cards, him trying to do the card trick. And he says, it's more of a joke. And then I love the reveal at the end. I don't know if you're ready to go into that kind of stuff yet or not, but when we actually
Yeah.
find out who the killer is, I think that also is kind of what sets this movie apart and makes it stand out from some of the other ones.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the movie yet. So, the killer, of course, is Kenny, who is on the train dressed as the magician's assistant. And he is dressed in drag, playing this woman who, throughout the film, she's there. You see her. She doesn't really act too suspicious.
No.
But I did, as I think I mentioned earlier when we were talking, that as I sat there, I started scratching my head thinking, kind of remembering back to when I first watched it about the magician's assistant, and then
Mhm.
she disappears. So you're like, well, is she dead or is that who the
She's
killer
on the
actually is?
yeah.
So when Jamie Lee Curtis has kind of figured out what's going on, she comes into the conductor's office, and there's this person, kind of like a wax figure almost, just sitting there in a conductor's outfit and mask.
Mhm.
And then he grabs her, and she tries to maneuver a way of getting out of this situation. He reveals the issues and
Takes
what's
the hat off, takes the wig
takes
off, and
the wig off, and it's like, you didn't recognize me. And it was the perfect disguise for him to be able to just wander around with everybody, especially getting off of the train when everyone is off the train and they can't find the actual killer.
Mhm.
And then we get a little showdown between Jamie Lee Curtis's character and Kenny. And this was a moment where it kind of ends up a little abruptly, but we find the fight between Jamie Lee and Kenny. He knocks her towards the door to try to push her off outside because the train is, of course, going across a bridge. And she manages to push him out, which
Mm-hmm.
makes him fall to his death.
Right.
I had
Conveniently right over a bridge.
Right? Convenient. Yes, exactly. But it did, because you had mentioned earlier about the similarities with Agatha Christie. I was having some similarities with an Alfred Hitchcock film
Mm.
called Shadow of a Doubt, where the killer is confronting our protagonist on a train and he gets pushed off as well. So I had this, like, I wonder if there's some connections
Oh,
here.
I'm sure.
Little
Especially with Hitchcock.
on there, but it does make for a very uncomfortable scene, having him become, he's dressed in drag,
Yes.
reveals himself, and then he's trying to kiss her, and that
Mm-hmm.
causes him to go into a panic.
Right. He
Originally,
relives that moment from the beginning of the movie. Yeah. And what I like about that is they don't like he looks very natural. And I think I read something that this actor in real life had experience doing drag.
yes.
And, it doesn't come off as cartoony or, it's very natural. It's very tasteful. It's very well done. And I think that's what's kind of interesting about this is they don't, you don't see it coming because they don't really highlight it at all. It's just,
Right, because that's not the main point of the
right,
character.
exactly.
The whole his whole thing is just dressing in different outfits
Mhm.
but showing up. This was probably his plan to begin with. He'll go as the assistant to the
Exactly.
magician, and that'll get his way of getting onto the train, and then he can do away with everybody.
Exactly, exactly. And I feel like
And
some other movies may have kind of made more of that, and they don't in this. And I
right,
like the subtlety.
it's not the main focus. The whole point is his revenge from what everyone
Exactly.
did to him back in his college days. And can we quickly discuss the reveal of poor David Copperfield towards
Oh,
the
that's right.
end?
In his
Uh,
little box.
there's this box that is just sitting there with swords in it,
Yeah,
and we know that that's been used previously for the
the
magic show,
magic.
but
Yeah.
somehow it opens up to reveal the
Him.
body of David Copperfield with the swords all through him.
I wish we got to see that scene. I wanna see him
Right?
get stuck in the box.
I
Um,
know, and
but yeah, that is kind of a fun reveal.
yeah, because he sort of kind of disappears, and then
Mhm.
it's like, that's why he's gone.
Yep, exactly. He's in pieces.
And now I'm trying to remember the end of it. Do we get any closure between Ben Johnson and Jamie Lee, or does it just end with him going through I think it just ends
I
with
feel like
that.
it just kinda ends, yeah.
So I feel one thing I wish that there had been a little bit more of was that kind of closure between the two of
Mhm.
them, of getting back to the station or
Right,
continuing on
they were going.
with the station. Maybe they had thought about it, but the time they needed to cut it down to make sure it was 88 minutes.
Exactly. Uh-oh, we're getting too long. Yeah.
But even with minor issues like that, this is the suspense and the thrills are just really top notch
Oh,
throughout, and
definitely.
it's very competently directed.
I think so too. Yeah, it's not
And
someone I'm familiar with.
no, Roger Spottiswoode, who was I believe, an editor for Sam Peckinpah, who did all
That's right.
those spaghetti westerns
Yeah.
in the '70s, and that's how Ben Johnson got involved, because he was in some of those.
Yep.
And so this was Roger's film debut, and I think with his connections and also the fact that he was an editor, he knew how to make the movie, make the camera work the way he wanted to. And he definitely chose a very difficult and tricky way
Mm.
to do it, giving the size of a train car and having
Right.
to light that and not feel like it's getting in the way. And But yeah, he keeps the pacing going.
It moves along nicely. I love the character, and I feel like everything's really nicely developed. I mean, I don't know if that comes down to the script or the acting, but the characters feel three-dimensional for the most part.
Yeah, which we don't always get with any
No,
type of horror slasher movie.
especially slasher movies. Yeah,
Yeah, because usually they're there to have the audience just one kill after the other, and who cares about why this is happening or
yeah.
who they're killing.
We just want
You
to
know,
see the blood.
sometimes they'll throw in a little piece here and there, but it's usually just a afterthought. Whereas here, as you were saying, as it's stretched along between each kill, we get to know these characters a little more, and also their issues, their foibles, their
Exactly.
what they're looking forward to after the party is over with, or what they're sad about that things are coming to an end. Especially Jamie Lee's friend, who's roommate, because she's not graduating, she has to wait, but so she feels like people are leaving her behind. And we know what in our lives what that is like when someone leaves earlier than you do, and you're like stuck for one semester without your usual pod.
Right. Yeah, she even makes that comment. Some other one of the girls pops in when they're in their little room talking, and Mitchie makes a comment, "Oh, you're going to leave me with her?" Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Let's take a quick coffee break before the clock strikes midnight. Today's cup is Stumptown's Elf Parade, a holiday blend that feels right at home in a drip coffee maker. It's a medium roast with soft notes of milk chocolate, a little brightness, and just enough warmth to feel seasonal without being showy. This is the kind of coffee that doesn't ask for your full attention. The coffee brings out the nostalgic memories of the holiday season and a great way to close out the year. The kind of cup you refill as the conversation drifts and the room slowly quiets down. There's something comforting about that, especially at this time of year. Stumptown's Elf Parade blend isn't there to steal the spotlight, just quietly carry you through one last moment before midnight. If you missed out on this blend this year, it will return next holiday season, as it is their signature holiday roast. You can find this blend on Stumptown's website or Amazon.com. Did you receive any coffee gifts this year? Let us know and tag us on Instagram at real_beans. And now, one thing that, talking about how the synopsis came to be, the producer of the movie, he had seen the film Halloween, and then he just saw the movie Silver Streak, which takes place, it's a comedy with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor that takes place on a train, a mystery, and he thought, oh, would this make a good idea?
Halloween on a train.
And the legend goes that he told his wife this story, and she said, that sounds terrible. And so he made the choice to call it Terrible Train, wrote a 22-page script, and sent it along to 20th Century Fox, and they said, sure, let's do it. And the rest is history with that.
Just thank God they changed the name, because
Right?
Terrible Train is a
Train.
terrible name. Terror Train's fun.
And I believe in Germany it's called Mystery of the Night Train or something like
Oh,
that.
interesting.
Terror on the Night Train. Because the titles always change.
Oh, they always change. Doesn't always translate.
And right. Now, the film, when it opens, it, of course, doesn't do very well. I mean, it makes money, but not the way that they were hoping to. And so it kind of gets shooed under the rug. Critics are kind of mixed at the time for this, but I read that Roger Ebert, even though he gave it a poor review, he still said it was a notch higher than the rigmarole that they were having to sit through. But they still were like, it's still, a pointless slasher movie. But it's interesting to hear some of these big critics at the time kind of either for it or against it. I think the person at the New York Times was very much in favor of the movie, like the how it felt, the ambiance, suspense. And yeah, I definitely say if you're looking for a film that takes place in a small surrounding cat and mouse thriller that isn't your typical slasher movie like Friday the 13th, this is definitely up your alley because it's there's a lot to recommend it, and a lot of fun moments scattered throughout. Because my favorite section is, of course, I love when Jamie Lee is inside the conductor's cage and she has nowhere else to go and she's being just taunted back and forth, and it really amps up the the suspense when you're seeing things from her vantage point and from his vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that was one that always I remembered from when I first saw the movie. That scene stuck with me, along with the magic show, which kind
Mm-hmm.
of comes out of left field, but it's
Right,
kind of a
exactly. It's like, oh,
cool.
there's a
It's
magician
kind of
on
a
the
cool
train.
reprieve after all the suspense. You get a little, which I think
Oh,
is always necessary in films like these. You need to have the
yeah,
roller coaster of some fun moments happening mixed in
and then
with
a
the
little
terror,
levity. Yeah.
just so you can give yourself a chance to like just breathe a bit.
Well, I was thinking,
But to have something like a magician
yeah, and they
is
even
very
dropped a nugget. I just kind of put this together. The doc and the other guy, when they realize there's a magician on board, one of them says to the other one, "Oh, did you order that?" And he says,
right.
"No." So it's kind of like, oh, little
Exactly.
foreshadowing there at the end of, oh,
One of
no.
the big red herrings in the film is whether or not the magician is who he says he is.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and like you were saying earlier, like, for people that aren't usually into slasher movies, this could be a good one to watch because it is less gory, it is less of kind of all that gratuitous nudity and violence and stuff, so
yeah,
it's a fun one to
it's
watch if you wanna give it a
definitely
try.
it's a definitely tamer
Mhm.
film, but by no means does it lose any of its
No.
intensity, and it's really fun to watch. I just enjoyed just sitting there having a good time, going from when they leave the station to when they have the ending, and it does feel like you're on a train ride the entire time, and they really did a good job with making you feel like you're on the train at all times.
People, like, can't walk straight, they're always, kinda drifting a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The sleeper car is all
Mhm.
covered up with everybody,
Yep.
and yeah, it's just really, really exciting, and I think out of the it's probably one of my favorite of Jamie Lee's performances too. I think it's got a lot of layers to it that something like Prom Night doesn't have, and she's kind of second fiddle in The Fog, so she's not really the
Right.
prominent
Yeah, it's very much this could
fixture.
have been her character from Halloween in college, She
Right,
definitely is kind of building upon that. I feel like this is definitely a more nuanced performance. She is a little stronger. She is able to stand up for herself a little bit more than she did in that movie.
right. And then, oh yeah, I forgot that she would go on right after this to do Halloween 2.
Mhm.
So that was another slasher movie that she got called back in to do.
Right. Gotta do the sequels.
I always have to have a sequel. And apparently this film, Terror Train, has been remade once on
Right.
Tubi,
I saw
and
that. As
there's a
soon as I
sequel.
finished watching it, it recommended that, and I was like, "Wait, they remade it? I had
Yeah, they
not."
did their own remake and then a sequel the next year. I didn't feel like watching it at the moment, but I was like, okay, it makes sense. They remake a lot of those slashers
Right.
these days because they're easy to just quickly put together.
Exactly. It's just a fun one to watch every now and again. Pull it out. We're like, "Yeah, this
Yeah,
is a good movie."
and it's definitely one I could recommend to friends to say like if you're looking for something to watch on Halloween, another type of movie like this. I think this would be fun to see on one of the big screens.
Oh, that would be great.
Like at the New Beverly Center, for example, at Quentin
Right.
Tarantino's cinema, who he'll play things like this every once in a while. It'd be kind
Right.
of fun to
If you
see,
could find yourself an old drive-in movie theater,
right?
that'd be
I'm
perfect.
sure they do midnight showings of this type.
Definitely.
Uh,
Oh, yeah, this would be a good one for, the Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
oh yeah, oh boy. Especially, I wonder if Ben Johnson is buried there. Then it would be like,
Yeah,
good, good,
his ghost will
good,
come out and be like, "Yeah, that was a fun movie."
right? We have a special for you.
Right.
Here's Ben Johnson's ghost to
Could
talk
you
to
imagine?
us.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so that is Terror Train, a fun
Yeah.
whodunit
Fun
mystery
fun
slash sequel.
1980s slasher romp.
It definitely has, yes, and it definitely is an 80s movie. You
Yeah,
have forgot to mention the whole band that is on train as
that's
well, and
right.
you have a very much a kind of a mixture of disco
It's kinda
meets
disco-y, but
rhythm
yeah,
blues,
little
rock,
electronica in there, yeah.
electronic music. So it's definitely that capsule, and the costumes
The
are
costumes and
very
the
much of
clothes,
the
yeah.
time period. But it doesn't feel dated at all to me. It never felt dated. Even with being on the locomotive and the old train, it actually makes sense with what they're doing
Yeah.
with the
Oh,
party.
definitely,
So,
definitely.
but yeah, if you're looking for a really good slasher movie, this is definitely one to add to your list. And as
Perfect
we
way to ring
mentioned,
in the new year.
you bring in the new year with it, and you'll find it on Tubi to watch for free there.
Yeah. No, it's just a fun one. I'm glad
Yeah,
you picked this one. I was very excited when you asked me to come and talk
yeah.
about this
I
'cause
thought it'd be
fun.
I thought it would be fun to go back to another horror movie, and I'm sure we'll find some more to come back to talk about. And so, yeah, thank you for joining me,
Yes.
Kathryn.
Anytime,
This
anytime.
was fun and a nice little quick jaunt before we hit the new year running.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so until next time, we will see you at the theater.
Yeah.
And remember, everyone, sip, watch, repeat. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Real Beans. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we'd love it if you could hit the like button, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow and reach more fellow film and coffee lovers. You can catch all of our episodes on your favorite podcast platform, on our YouTube channel, and for even more insights, recommendations, and everything films, head over to realbeans.com. Want to support our show and help us keep brewing up great content? Visit realbeans.com/support.